My name is Adrienne Anderson, and I live in an adjacent neighborhood. I was on the Environmental Studies faculty at the University of Colorado at Boulder for 11 years, and prior to that, 6 years with the National Toxics Campaign for the Western United States. I'm now with a nonprofit organization, Rocky Mountain Peace and Justice Center, and I've been investigating this site for a number of years. And in the fact sheet, I find no mention of the fact that this was a radioactive waste dump for the military. And you're trying to equate it to the Cherry Creek dump. That was a dump from the 40s and 50s, and that was, essentially newspapers and orange rinds. Not really comparable to the kinds of uses of this landfill that have spanned going back to the 1940s, including the period of the Titan missile program at the Lowry Air Force Base. The Air Force is very aware that there's radioactive waste in that dump. I've examined all of the archived documents about this available with the U.S. Air Force, and I've done Open Records Act requests to the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. I see the PR person for the Health Department that's listed for this, Marilyn Null. It might be of interest to you that she's now representing the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, but just until recently was a PR person for the Air Force. Now, my concern about this is that for the $10 amount that you paid for this, there's not a single peep in any of these documents about the fact that this was a radioactive waste dump. You've said this is a pristine site. That's simply a false statement because...
Let me clarify.
No, I would like to make some statements here that the public, I think, should know about this. Is that 100% of the groundwater wells that were sampled by Air Force contractors showed high gross alpha and gross beta radiation many times above the state and federal standards. The Air Force refused to dig up and excavate that radioactive waste in that dump site, not in the interest of this community. And there's radioactive water in Westerly Creek, going back to documents I reviewed from 1998. The Air Force did not want to have to excavate that dump, even though the state health department recommended it initially. And instead, this dump was covered up, literally. And so this is going from a dirt dump cover-up to what you're proposing for an asbestos cover-up of this site. The state covenants specify that this is not to be anything other than an unirrigated open space area. But the city of Denver would not take title to it, not surprisingly, because they have title to the Lowry bombing range dump, which is loaded with plutonium.
Great. We're going to have to, let me clarify one thing very quickly. I did not call this site pristine. I was talking about the natural area to the north of it. Very different distinction. This is a landfill site that we're very familiar with. I have heard your statements. There are people here that have heard those same arguments from you for probably 10 plus years. So I'm going to actually...
Air Force contractor documents on this site, which people can read about, these documents, these are not my interpretations. These are Air Force contractor documents, and there's some very toasty levels of radiation underneath and beyond this site, including some unusual radionuclides.
Great.
And you're not discussing the history of use of this site as a radioactive waste disposal site, and these residents have the right to
be honest. If you want me to try to diagram your questions or sentences, we're going to have a hard time going through and answering them right now. I'm going to try to break up a few of the things you said.
So you're...
No, it's great. I appreciate, yes, absolutely.
Concerns? These are all public documents,
absolutely.
By the way. Anyone can look at them.
And we appreciate the comment. I think we have to try to get through a few of them. And I'm just going to say Sheila is here as well from the Colorado Department of Public Health. These questions have been raised on numerous occasions, these same statements. They have been answered over and over again. We'll be happy to go through them again. But Joe, if you want to take a few of them, we'll try to remember the order.
Yeah, and I think that this is an important piece of the process in that certain people might feel that there is issues with this landfill. But if you actually look at the facts, and true, the Air Force has done a lot of studies out there, and the state of Colorado has approved every one of those studies. And the fact is that this is not, there is no evidence that this is a radioactive waste dump. All right, there isn't. Can I finish,
thank you.
Can I finish my statement? No, there's evidence in the record that one drum of radioactive waste was disposed of in this. Does that make the whole landfill a radioactive waste dump? It doesn't. right? The only evidence of radioactive disposal was that the Air Force put some old tubes, television tubes, and tubes that contain radioactive materials in a drum, filled it with concrete, and buried it somewhere in the landfill. The Air Force has gone over there and done extensive studies looking for that drum. They couldn't find it. They basically have done extensive groundwater samples. And what I said earlier is that we've just completed a study, and we're about to submit it to the state of Colorado, that has a real professor from the Colorado School of Mines who's an expert on radiological issues in the environment. He's looked at the data, and our conclusions basically is that what we're seeing is naturally occurring in Colorado. Now, people might have heard of radon in houses. Radon is a problem in Colorado. It's not regulated because it's naturally occurring. Naturally occurring uranium is not regulated by the state of Colorado. And what we're finding is that concentrations that are similar to other places, for example, in Highlands Ranch, the concentrations are similar to there. There's many places on the Front Range that have similar concentrations in groundwater. But that said, what I really want to get across is that there is a lot of data. The Air Force has done a lot of studies, and if anybody has questions, we can sit you down and walk you through real facts on those issues, rather than just having allegations thrown out.
I do want to say as well, on Thursday, and we can't announce it tonight because we don't have a meeting room, we're actually going to have an environmental forum, just because we knew that some of these issues would be raised, and we want to go through the volumes of material if you're interested in any of that. Two things as a non-technical person I want to say. You heard about the entire program of what's tested for this site. All of these things continue to be tested, will be tested. And most importantly, there's kind of an underlying assumption in everything that was just said that we, IRG or Lowry Vista, the owners, would not put on enough of a durable cap, enhance the cap. Don't forget, they're going to own this site. The owners are going to continue ownership of this site, and they're going to own that liability. There is no one who has more of an incentive to put a proper cap on that landfill than the owners here. So to suggest that they wouldn't put a proper cap on is simply, I don't know what to call it, but it's simply not true. But we will announce that on Thursday. It'll be on our Lowry website as well. I'm sorry we don't have the meeting location tonight.